It's a lot of paperwork to be a human test subject.
Do you have a pen?
I do have my own pen
A
here.
nurse hands multiple forms to volunteer Christian Ramers. The papers are the final steps before Ramers joins an experimental COVID-19 vaccine study with Janssen Pharmaceuticals. The company is part of Johnson & Johnson.
If you were to get sick, would you allow us to get that information?
The nurse's disposable gown rustles each time she explains what Ramers is signing. After a few pages, Ramers needs a new pen.
My pen just ran out.
He also answers a series of questions that has the nurse scribbling down too.
And then what is your ethnicity?
I am Hispanic, white.
The process to join a COVID-19 vaccine trial is not only lengthy, but also invasive.
I have to ask some confidential questions.
Okay.
In a follow-up interview, Ramers, a community clinic physician, says he endured it all to help fight the pandemic and skepticism around a
And
vaccine.
there's a lot of suspicion and fear, and that's based in historical injustices, really, from biomedical research. And so, I wanted to really take a proactive stance against that.
But the personal gain is uncertain. Ramers doesn't know whether he received the vaccine or a placebo. Researchers don't know either. It's called a double blind and protects the integrity of the study. But volunteers can drop out at any point, and researchers worry the first emergency-approved vaccine may give them just the reason.
Something people should know about clinical trials is it's always the participants' rights to pull out of the trial if they want to.
Doctors like Ramers would be prioritized to receive an emergency-approved vaccine.
And so that's a key consideration for me, is that if I have the ability to get a vaccine that's approved and I get in line because I'm a healthcare provider, you always have the ability to pull out of the vaccine trial.
UC San Diego Health's Susan Little is overseeing the local trial for Janssen as well as for AstraZeneca. They require enrolling hundreds to thousands of volunteers.
AstraZeneca study, we're hoping to put closer to 750, and the Janssen study, we're quite a bit ambitious. We're trying to put 2,000 on.
Plus tens of thousands of others elsewhere. But she's worried another vaccine receiving emergency use approval could push some people out. That would jeopardize long-term data collection needed to produce multiple vaccines.
It would be nearly impossible for one pharmaceutical company to generate enough doses of vaccine to vaccinate the US, let alone the world.
And she says many volunteers may not even be eligible for the initial doses that will likely be in short supply even among priority groups. But she also says COVID is a public health emergency that demands an urgent response.
With the epidemic raging the way it is, we need vaccines as fast as possible for as many people as possible. So we're in a very difficult catch-22 position here.
Little says she's already planning how to talk to participants once the first emergency authorization is granted, which could be later this month.
We might advise our participants that really, if you were to wait until February, you could evaluate this vaccine study that you're on to see if it was better.
Janssen's is a one-dose vaccine, while Pfizer's requires 2 injections. FDA guidelines say it does not consider an emergency-approved vaccine as a reason to tell participants if they received a placebo. But a leading bioethicist from NYU says participants have a right to know under such circumstances. Raymer says he hopes he's in the vaccine arm of the Janssen trial.
But I did get a sore arm. And so, fingers crossed that it was the vaccine. But that's the idea of going in, is that you have to be willing to take a placebo for the sake of the science.
Still, he plans to review data from an emergency-approved vaccine before making up his mind. But Janssen told KPBS they'll notify participants about eligibility for an emergency-approved vaccine. The company said volunteers can use that info to continue as is or seek to be unblinded. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.